Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and today it's time to take your taste buds to new heights. You're watching Cigars Daily. Get even more out of our content when you join the community on Cigars Daily Plus. You know, it feels to me sort of like when the world looks at cigar smokers, what they see is the beginning part of the Wizard of Oz, the black and white part, the part where you're like, oh, okay, maybe there's a story here. But when a cigar smoker lights up a premium blend handmade by a master blender to include a flavor profile that ignites your palate and sends you to a new world, it's like being in that part of the Wizard of Oz after, when the house lands on the witch and she's dancing with the little people and there's the Lollipop Guild. It's so exciting and nobody knows what's going on, but it's fun. And really with the world of cigars, unpacking that fun is a big part of what the hobby is about. Certainly this is a massive topic within the cigar community, because if you go and you read cigar reviews or listen or watch cigar reviews online, you're going to hear people talk about these flavor notes that come from a premium blend. It's a perfectly natural part of what we do, yet at the same time, there are people who struggle to grasp these flavor notes. I've talked with people, both beginners and quite seasoned smokers, who don't really find themselves picking out all the little notes that you hear reviewers talking about. And so today, I want to give you guys an in-depth dive into the world of flavor notes, how to find flavor notes, and even give you some cigars where you can taste a really good example of one or two particular flavor notes. And so let's dive right in. But before we do that, I gotta ask you to drop a comment. What is the cigar that you go to with a trusted flavor note that you would say, this cigar has this note to me? Like, you're like, man, I really like cigars with cedar notes, but if I want a good cedar cigar, then I light up this cigar. Or chocolate notes is this cigar. Put that down in the comments below, because for everybody just getting into cigars, this is one of the great ways that we'll talk about in just a minute to catch on to flavor notes and start taking your palate to all kinds of fringe edges of the flavor world. And with no further ado, let's jump right in. So the first thing to clear up is what's a flavor note in a cigar, because certainly premium traditional cigars don't have any characterizing flavors other than the actual leaf. And that is soon going to become part of what legally defines them as a premium cigar. There's this whole world of flavored infused blends out there, and those are very clearly cherry or vanilla or whatever the hell moon trance is. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy flavors out there and some really good stuff if you're into that sort of thing. But truly, a flavor note in a traditional cigar is the type of flavor that you taste when you light it up, because nothing has been added to this. Everything that comes with the flavor of a premium cigar, like the one I'm smoking here, this is my father's The Judge. Everything that comes with this premium cigar has to do with the seed that was planted in the ground, the soil in which it was grown, the sun that shone down on that soil, and a very organic process of fermenting and aging the leaf to prepare it for being rolled into a cigar. And somehow, through this crazy process, cigar makers are able to create flavor profiles that are very different from each other, and they do this again and again and again, to the point where there are thousands upon thousands of different blends out there. And the notes that you pick out of these cigars, really what they are is a way of describing the types of flavors that you taste when you light one of these up. It's a very subjective thing, and maybe even a little bit different than what you hear whiny, snooty wine snobs talk about when they talk about, oh, it's dry and it's got peach skins. Like, I guess in the wine world, maybe it's less subjective. I don't really know. I'm really not that into wine. The truth is, if you go look at like 5 different reviews of just one cigar, you're going to read about some different flavor notes. Like, one reviewer might talk about the Judge and tell you that it's got really nice dark chocolate and really powerful, pepper or spice, while another reviewer might get dark chocolate, but not as much of a powerful pepper and spice. All of us have very different palates, and so what you'll find with a cigar is that flavor notes, while they're subjective, tend to all fall in the same arena. for certain cigar reviewers. Some flavor notes are notes that you tend to find in stronger cigars. And you'll hear about these notes in reviews when people talk about coffee and leather and dark chocolate and black cherries and stuff like this is typically things you'll find in stronger, bolder cigars. But then there's this whole arena of flavor profiles you tend to find on the lighter side. And that's stuff like cedar, maybe even grass and hay, earthiness, like a nice light vanilla or a creaminess to a cigar. You don't typically find those things with really bold, strong cigars. You find them with the milder, meek stuff. But at the end of the day, it is sort of a subjective thing. The good news is that means you're not going to be doing it wrong the first time you pick out a flavor note and you're like, oh my gosh, I just tasted chocolate. You sure as hell did. So like I said earlier in the video, I've talked with people who are beginners in the cigar world and who've smoked cigars for a very long time that don't really get these flavor notes. But at the same time, I've talked to a lot of people who have found that they've suddenly started to find flavor notes. And I do think that there's a way to do this. If you're one of these people that you're like, gosh, I smoke a cigar and I can really tell whether or not I like the thing, but I couldn't define a whole flavor profile for you. I do think that there's a pathway that could lead you into picking out some interesting notes that associate with some really great tastes that would really add to the whole experience for you. So I want to lay out some of those for you right now. So in my almost decade in the cigar world, I have seen a lot of people do a lot of different things, but mostly what I can tell you is what's really worked for me and a few things I've heard that have worked for more than a few people. But the first thing I'll recommend is, and this is just because this is authentically how I did it. I used a cigar review journal. In fact, it's the whole reason that I wrote a cigar review journal. When I first got into the world of cigars, I started with a cigar review journal and I was writing about every cigar that I could get my hands on in my journal. And I'd fill out the criteria and make notes on every little thing. And pretty soon I noticed in there I was writing down flavor notes like chocolate. And truthfully, there are some, I think, more attainable, easier to grab flavor notes out there. And I'll tell you what they are, because if you're going to taste a flavor note, chances are you'll taste one note before you start tasting the whole world of flavor notes. But simple notes like chocolate, coffee, cedar, even flavor characteristics like pepper and spice are things that you'll pick up probably long before you pick up vanilla or black cherry or coriander or whatever the weird stuff that all the reviewers get into is. But these are things that I found really came into my cigar vocabulary when I was writing in a journal. Now, there are a lot more out there than just mine. There are tons of them online, and certainly my first one wasn't the one that I wrote. You kind of got to find one that you really like and then sort of take it from there. Now, there's one way I've heard a lot of people tell me they've started tasting flavor notes, and that is, quite frankly, by watching my review videos. And there are lots of reviewers out there. I'm certainly not the only one, and in my videos, I tend to find pretty simple flavor notes. I'm not the type of reviewer that finds seabed moss or some kind of weird thing like that. My flavor notes all typically generally go around pretty attainable things. Coffee, leather, cedar, earth, hay, grass. Sometimes I get really exotic and I do graham crackers. In cigars that I really like, I find a graham cracker note, which is a very specific note for me. But if I was to do a flavor wheel of all of my flavor notes, it wouldn't have a ton of stuff on it because for me, the flavor of cigars is pretty simple. It's the way that those flavors come together that really makes an incredible flavor profile, and I still find an incredible amount of variety there. But the conversation I've had with a lot of people here at the Cigars Daily HQ is they'll come in and tell me, hey, Tim, I got into cigars and I found some cigars I really loved, and I was really frustrated because I couldn't find any flavor notes. I couldn't taste anything, but then I was watching one of your videos and you said that this cigar, the Judge, tasted like it had chocolate in it, and I lit it up and I got a chocolate note. I've had that conversation with probably a couple of dozen people over the last couple of years, just in different cigars and different notes that they've picked out, which is a really cool privilege for me, but also awesome because it means that if you're watching a particular review or reading a review and you see a flavor note, that's something that you can intentionally look for and even train your palate to sort of pick out. Once you get one flavor note, the odds of you finding more as you continue going are going to be a whole hell of a lot higher. There's another way to taste flavor notes that to me is honestly the most important one. But when I talk to people about this, their eyes kind of sometimes seem to gloss over. And so I'm putting it in this video strictly because I want to, because I think it's highly valuable. You'll decide for yourself whether you think that this is important or not. When you smoke a cigar, you are filling one of your senses with a sensory input. And you can think about your brain more or less like a computer processor. The more like sensory input information that's coming in through all 5 of your senses, the higher the load on the processing machine, being your brain. If you're sitting outside where there are lots of sights and sounds and smells, there's a ton of stuff going on, the dog is running around, your son lit his playset on fire, dear God, who's going to put that out? It's going to be relatively difficult to pick out a flavor note. So when you're smoking a cigar, and really this is the crux of it, when you're smoking a cigar, being able to sort of remove distractions from your world is going to give you a lot better chance of picking up maybe not even just the flavor notes, but the best part of a flavor profile in a cigar. Like, it's going to help you pick out all the nuances of what's there. It's not just the different like tastes that are in that cigar. It's how well balanced are they? And what really underlies that? Is there a sweetness or a creaminess or a texture to this smoke? It's something that you won't find yourself getting as easily if you're sitting on your phone while you're smoking a cigar. I can't tell you how many times these days I walk into a cigar lounge and every single person in there is just sitting on their phone. And I always wonder, like, these people aren't really enjoying the cigar as much as they could be, and maybe they don't want to. Maybe that's not the goal. Maybe it's just to relax, and that's fine. But if you really want to soak in everything a cigar has to offer, maybe even just give yourself 5 or 10 minutes without anything else going on and ask yourself, what is it that I can get from this flavor profile? How balanced is this? And is it any better than any other cigars that I've smoked? Because when you find that one that is a head and shoulders above the rest, that sends your palate soaring to another planet, it's an experience you'll never forget. Now, if you are in the world of just getting started or you've been smoking a long time and you really want to see where these notes are coming from, I want to give you some cigars that you can actually look for a specific note in. And so I'm going to take you through a few of those right now, and I want to kick it off by talking about my father's The Judge. Now, this is a soft box pressed cigar that has got some really incredible chocolate in it. And this is a blend that's been 90 plus rated, is a top 25 cigar. It has a complete flavor profile with a little bit of spice on the back of the throat, some nice black pepper, medium plus in terms of strength. There is some leather in this flavor, but even if you don't get all of that in a profile, you can get a really nice chocolate that comes all the way through this, whether you're just drawing it in on the tongue or blowing it out on the retrohale as well. Now, maybe you're not there yet on the stronger stuff, and maybe you don't even like chocolate. There's those people who exist, I'm told. You want something like more true to what represents cigars for you. And that's that good old smell you get when you walk into a humidor, Spanish cedar. Like, a true cedar note in a cigar is a beautiful thing, and it's typically a very easy to grab, attainable note. And for me, the Oliva Serie O is a great example of that. Here's another cigar with an example of like a full flavor profile. There's plenty going on with this, and to me, one of the more underrated cigars that's out there. When I reviewed this cigar, I gave it like a 90, and people pass this one up on the shelf for newer, flashier cigars all the time. It's got brilliant balance. It does have a nice little sweetness to the wrapper, but also this really nice, vibrant cedar note to it that when you light it up, should be pretty easy to find, especially if you don't have a bunch of distractions whirling around your head as you're doing it. And of course, there's a lot of flavor notes out there. You can find flavor wheels online. Just about everybody's got one these days with like 50 different flavor notes that go all over it. But there's also what I call flavor characteristics or flavor character parts like pepper and spice. And certainly, if you want to get into pepper and spice, these are probably more easy to attain than a lot of the flavor notes are, because when you find them, you'll know it. Your eyes are watering, your throat kind of seizes up. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a strong cigar. And one guy's better at that than just about anyone, and that's Eric Espinosa. This is the Espinosa L'Araña Escuro. This is a cigar that in the last couple of months, I've probably smoked through 2 boxes of these. for whatever reason, my palate has kind of leaned toward wanting stronger stuff the longer that I've smoked. And so even early in the mornings, I'll come in and light one of these up because in addition to a really nice, sturdy pepper in the back of the throat and spice on the retrohale, this also has this vivid flavor profile with some nice natural wrapper sweetness that goes along with it. Just a brilliantly balanced cigar that's definitely got some punch. And among the attainable flavor notes, some of the first that you'll pick out, some of these are ones that are just a little bit more central to your life. The types of things that your palate is used to tasting because you taste them all the time. And certainly chocolate is one of those, but another great one that's very central for a lot of people is coffee. Like a lot of us drink coffee every single day. So if you get a flavor that's just a little bit like coffee, that's pretty damn easy to pick out. And with the Chillin' Moose Bull Moose Maduro, that is a key flavor component for this blend. So Chillin' Moose came out with these ultra affordable economy series of blends, and the Chillin' Moose and the Chillin' Moose 2, and then they did a Shady Moose. But this Bull Moose right here is a single country blend, a Nicaraguan Puro. Every leaf in this comes from Nicaragua. It gives it quite a bold flavor profile and especially diverse flavor profile for a cigar that comes with all leaves from one country. But among that profile is that one note, coffee, stands out pretty damn clearly. And of course, it would be a huge injustice if I left you without a perfect example of one of the best parts of a good tasting cigar in my mind. I mentioned this in all my reviews. It's part of the criteria that I use to rate every single cigar, and it is wrapper sweetness. See, I mentioned the difference between infused and traditional cigars, and certainly there's a colossal world of difference, but even a traditional, non-infused or flavored cigar is going to have, well, a good one anyway, is going to have an inherent sweetness in the wrapper leaf. It won't be anything like that infused stuff. It won't taste like someone dipped the thing in sugar like many of them do. It's just going to be a very subtle sweetness that matches up much better with the flavor profile. And for that, a cigar that I love that has great wrapper sweetness is the American Viking Liga Zebra. There's a lot of barber poles out there, but this is the one to me that just sends my palate singing. It's got so much in terms of mild, creamy, almost Connecticut-esque flavor, but there's still a lot going on. But of everything that goes on inside this cigar when you light it up, the one thing I love the most is that it's got this very inherent sweetness to the wrapper. How the factory does it, I don't know, but thank God that they do, because this is one of my favorites to light up. For a barber pole, the damn thing even burns really well too. So there's your deep dive on the world of flavor notes in cigars. And again, I really want to hear from you guys on this. Do you get notes when you light up, or do you just light up and you can really tell whether or not you like the thing? Where are you at on the journey? Have you tasted a note and you're sort of searching for more out there? Or do you have a refined palate that picks out all the little nuances that are out there? I love it when I get to talk to people and they say, oh man, you smoked this cigar and I found this note as well. And I just love it as much when I get to talk to people who say, you picked out this note and I didn't get this note, but I got a completely different note out of a cigar, because it almost always causes me to go back and re-smoke that cigar and see if I get the same note. This is the great thing about cigars. I say the thing I love about them is that they're about incredible flavor and amazing community. And I want to thank all of you guys for being a part of that community and invite you to join the community on Cigars Daily Plus. And thank you all so much for watching. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.